Okay. Ooh. Sorry about that. So good morning, folks. I just wanted to quickly say that we have a team of community members who have consented into supporting our collective safety and wellness during this event. Huge shout out to Red Canary Song for organizing it. If you see anyone in a white vest that says Nonviolent Peace Force on the back and has lettering in purple on the back, there's some folks waving over there. If you need any support, if you would like to go to a quieter space and have someone listen or just be near you, if you would like support either finding a bathroom or making it safely to your subway stop as the event disperses, please, please, please come up to us. We're here for you all today. In the event that you need immediate support, please put an X over your head. Can we practice that really quickly? Those are some beautiful X's. So in the event that you need immediate support, feel free to place an X over your head. We have street medics here today. We also have folks who are skilled in first aid, who again are happy to offer any support that we can. Thank you. Try again. Hey. Good enough for me.
baby blue. I'll keep you close to me. I'll keep you close to me. Even when you're not here, I'll keep you close to me. I'll keep you close to me. Even when you're not here. I'll keep you close to me. I'll keep you close to me. Even when you're not here, I'll keep you close to me. I'll keep you close to me. Even when you're not here. The brightest night, the blackest day. Good night, sweet pea. Good night. We sat on the hardwood and pews, hearing the knots in his voice. He opened his mouth and tried to untie them and whispered, I will be fine. And in order to fly with the birds in the sky, she put down their memories before he could comply. He closed his eyes and bowed his head low, thinking, I'll be the holder now. Thinking, I am the holder now. And as we walked down the aisle, away from her time-capsuled body, the organ was playing her favorite song, singing, all you need is love. All you need is love. like ghosts in the past where I found them. I closed my eyes and bowed my head low, thinking I'll be the holder now. Thinking I am the holder now. You promised we'd be little pigeons together, finding breadcrumbs in Central Park. But until the day when we can finally join them, could you carry a share of the weight till I find a safe place to hide it? Could you carry a share of the weight? I can't be the holder now. Would you carry a share of the weight till I find a safe place to hide it? Would you carry a share of the weight? We'll be the holders now. Could you carry your share of the weight till I find a safe place to hide it? Would you carry your share of the weight? We'll be the holders now. We are the holders now.
Fred True. They've just played two selections of Melanie's original composition, Baby Blue and The Holder. Fred True is a cellist based in New York City and is currently a member of the outreach team at Red Canary Song. Mel comes from a lineage of healers who taught her how to sing herself out of the darkness. You can find her work at melanieshu.com. They will play again at the close of the event. We also thank our drummers, the KQT, Pungmo, Korean, Queer, Trans, and GNC communities of color. Pungmol is a Korean folk ritual rooted in farmers and shamanic practices. I'd also like to direct your attentions to the 8LIVES art memorial created by Red Canary Song Collective. Rin, curtain armor. The Chinese character Rin consists of two parts. The left part means fabric, the right part blade. Together it means toughness, the ability of a material to absorb energy and malleability without fracturing. The art memorial is a simulacrum of a typical massage parlor. The installation exposes the hidden workspace the migrant women workers call home. A facade of sheer fabrics sampled from massage parlors attires the installation while serving as a gallery white walls. Paintings of the victim's eyes are positioned to gaze from within the parlor. The cutting board as canvas demonstrates the massage workers' delicate management of limited resources in their everyday life. Inside the curtains are 3 massage beds set up as vigil altars. Featured on 2 massage beds are Korean and Chinese homemade foods, a display of how we care and nourish one another's bodies. The set meals also presses the question of how one service industry, that of body care, is shamed and criminalized, and the other of the restaurant is not. The third altar is set with a traditional and unique mourning tokens and will be the nexus of our closing mourning ritual. We invite you to peer into this space that is laden with care and nourishment, strength and softness. We ask you to take the conversation with you. What is it about these spaces that threaten society so that police, white saviors, and gunmen feel the need to tear them down? Hello, 大家好, 안녕하세요, hola. Thank you for joining us for our 8 Lives Vigil, hosted by Red Canary Song, Asian American Feminist Collective, and NYU's Intersectional Feminist Queer Collective and Center for Study of Gender and Sexuality. Our event today is also co-sponsored by the Asian Pacific American Institute at NYU and the NYC Nonviolent Peace Force org. My name is Yin Q, or Zuo Ying. I am a Chinese queer parent, writer, producer, co-director of Kink Out. I am a core member of Red Canary Song and have been a sex worker for close to 30 years. I want to start by reading community agreements and safety notes. We are dedicated to holding a space free of racism, casteism, sexism, horophobia, classism, LGBTQIA phobia, and ableism. We recognize that prevalent oppressive mindsets can permeate API spaces. If you witness any of these actions taking place, please see one of the event facilitators, whom you may identify by the black face mask with the Red Canary Song logo. We do not attempt to speak for anyone, and our guest speakers may hold differing perspectives. However, we consider our differences and conflicts to be deep learning moments and opportunities for political awakening. Nonviolent Peace Force members are also here, distinguished by their white vests and available to chaperone anyone who feels in danger to the subway or a car service at the end of the vigil today. Please visit their table to learn more. There are also defense kits being given out to APIA femmes, and Dragon Combat Club is also here. Respect confidentiality. Do not take identifying photography or video without consent. Any press photographers should notify our team at the media area over there with the red table for permission to record and take photos. There is an RCS media team recording our speakers and the art memorial. The media team is recognizable by their black masks as well with the RCS logo. Folks who prefer not to have their photo taken or to be recorded, please stand in the area that is chalked over there. That is a no photo zone, as well as you may also find a pink face mask from one of the safety tables. In the event of any incidents of violence, please reach out to the event facilitators. Violence in any form, physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, will not be tolerated in this space. Survivors will be prioritized. Respect each other's identities and pronouns. Ask, don't assume. In the event of misgendering someone, apologize and move on. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Lenape land on which we stand and the historic grounds of colonization and violence that our feet touch. I also want to acknowledge the indigenous earth, animals, and people who thrived here, and the history of revolutions led by marginalized folks that have pushed societal justice movements forward in our evolutionary goals of becoming a more equitable and, dare I say, more caring world. Our care evolution must include remembrance, and that is why we stand together here today, to remember and mourn the 8 lives that were gunned down in Atlanta last year in a violent spree, fueled by racism, sexism, and self-loathing. When we engage in social movements, we must first start with our own bodies. And so I ask you all today to take a moment to be present with us by coming into yourself, where you stand or where you sit. Feel the ground beneath you. If you can, place your hands somewhere on your own body where you need grounding. Find a point of focus for easy gaze and continued awareness. And I invite you to take 3 deep breaths together, breathing in through your nose, letting it out slowly. We are in a public park, and we ask that we all respect one another in this space. We are here to listen and learn, to experience sorrow and anger and joy and a myriad of possible emotions together and as individuals. We are here to hold the complexities of honoring the deaths of strangers in the hopes of offering the living a more equitable opportunity of livelihood and the pursuit of happiness. We are here to listen to sex workers and massage workers and allied community members. For the next moment on stage, I ask you to not take any photos, no videos, please. At this time, I would like to introduce my fellow Red Canary song member, Charlotte, to stand with me.
안녕하세요. 샬롯입니다.
Charlotte is a lead member of the Red Canary Song Outreach Team and was a massage worker for 20 years. She is a poet, a mother of 2 cats, and a master of kimchi and traditional Korean fare. Some of her incredible foods and altar making can be seen within the art memorial. We are here to say the names of those who died in Atlanta last year, followed by a poem by Charlotte. I'll read the names first. Xiao Jie Tan, Dao Yo Feng, Delana Ashley Wan, Paul Andre Mitchells,
박순정, 김현정, 김순자, 유영애. 위대하고 아름다웠던 당신의 삶에 우리 모두 고개를 숙입니다. 그리고 지금 이 순간 슬프기 그지 없습니다. 가슴속 깊이 파고드는 이 가슴 아픈 현실은 너무나도 힘이 들고 가혹하다는 생각마저 들게 합니다. 우리에게 희망은 어디 있나요? 우리에게 더는 갈 곳은 없습니까? 각자의 삶을 너무도 열심히 살아내고 있었던 당신의 아름다웠던 그 모습 잊지 않겠습니다. 정말 너무 미안합니다. 그리고 이렇게 함께 아파합니다. 새로운 봄의 시작은 아름다운 꽃과 바람과 상큼한 공기이지만 우리들의 마음은 아직도 어두운 밤인 것만 같습니다. 후회할 새도 없이 붙잡을 새도 없이 이미 늦어버린 날이었습니다. 그저 멀리서 바라보며 울고 또 울고 아파해야만 했습니다. 어떻게 해볼 겨를도 없이 우리 서로를 표현하지 못하고 마음에 담은 채 뒤돌아서만 하는 현실. 이제 더는 이대로 멈출 수 없습니다. 마사지 노동자를 보호하기 위해 적어도 그들의 생명을 보호할 법안을 만들어야 합니다. 이제 돌아봐 주십시오. 목소리에 귀를 기울여 주세요. 우리 이제 이 상황을 그저 슬픔으로만 자리 잡게 할 수는 없습니다. 이 세상에 태어난 모든 이의 생명은 너무나도 귀하고 소중합니다. 그저 아무런 편견 없이 소중한 생명으로 봐주시기 바랍니다. 어떤 이유로도 생명이 부정당해서는 안 됩니다. 나의 생명만 소중하고 남의 생명은 신경 쓰지 않는 것입니까? 소리 없이 찾아오는 공포와 죽음 앞에 이제 철저히 맞서야 합니다. 우린 한 번도 타인을 해치지 않았습니다. 그럼에도 우린 늘 다치거나 죽거나 해야 했습니다. 우리를 그저 나쁘게만 바라보고 함부로 대하고 손가락질로 답하는 분들에게 말씀드리고 싶습니다. 우리도 한편으로는 누구의 가족이며 친지이며 친구입니다. 또한 우리는 바이러스도 아닙니다. 어느 날 내 인생을 생각할 때 무언가에 저당 잡히고 완전한 자유조차 누리지 못하는 것만 같았어요. 순간순간 드는 생각은 이 긴장감은 늘 나를 따라다닙니다. 이 현실과 마주하는 저는 이제 많은 이들과 동참하여 이 아픔을 곳곳에 알려 많은 이들과 치유받기를 원합니다. 바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나. 허무하게 지는 꽃은 보기에도 아프다네. 이제 가는 뒷모습에 꽃이라도 뿌려보네. 설이 맺힌 그 마음을 우리 만져 드리리다. 어찌할까 어찌할까.
We all bow to your great and beautiful lives. At this moment, we are so sad, this heartbreaking reality that digs deep into my heart. It makes me think the world is so tough and harsh. Where is our hope? Do we have anywhere else to go? You were living your lives so zealously, we never forget how beautiful you and your lives were. Really, we are so sorry, and we are hurting now together. The start of a new spring is beautiful flowers, gentle wind, and refreshing air, but our hearts are still in the dark night. The day it happened, it was too late to regret, it was too late to hold on. I just had to look at it from afar, cry, and cry in pain. There was nothing I could do. At that moment, in this reality, my fellow massage workers couldn't express our pain. We had to swallow our pain and move on. But we can't be stagnant here. We need laws to protect massage workers, to protect our lives and work. Now, please see us. Listen to our voice. We can't let ourselves mire into stagnation of sorrow. Every single life born in this world is precious. Please see us as precious lives without bias. Life should not be denied for any reason. Is my life precious and not others? We now have to thoroughly face the fear and death that comes so silently. We never hurt anyone. Nevertheless, we always had to get hurt or die. I'd like to tell those who just see us as bad people, treat us carelessly, and point fingers at us, that we are also someone's family, relatives, and friends. We are not viruses either. One day I was reflecting on my life. I felt like my life was mortgaged on something and couldn't even enjoy complete freedom. This tension I feel from time to time always follows me. As I face this reality, I'll join many people and let them know about this pain. I want to be healed, surrounded by community, by you all. Are you back here again to float in the wind? It hurts to even look at them, flowers that fall in vain. We sprinkle the flowers behind you as you depart. We will touch gently your ambivalent heart. What should we do? What should we do? Thank you.
Thank you, Yin and Charlotte, for that. Hi, everyone. My name is Esther Gao. I am a core organizer with Red Canary Songs since 2019 and a consultant at the Sex Workers Project of the Urban Justice Center. I'm also a worker in the industry. I want to take a moment of silence for the 8 lives lost before I begin. When the Atlanta shooting happened, I stopped eating and only worked. Working has always been my trauma response, and I only got through the last March by being force-fed by my partner and my friends who sent me food. That week and the entire last year was a blur, and I have intense survivor's guilt. I think my body stops eating because I think eating's for the living, and I could not eat with people dying all around me. Red Canary started at the 1-year anniversary vigil of Yang Son, a massage worker who fell to her death during an NYPD raid. Now, we're having a vigil for the 8 lives lost. And every year we have a vigil because our friends and loved ones and sisters are dying all around us. It's a routine now to mourn, and to be honest, I'm tired of vigils. I'm tired of this being the norm. I'm so grateful for my friends and loved ones who force feed me. I'm grateful for my comrades in Red Canary, for my amazing coworker at the Sex Workers Project, and for all the support and love and allyship from the coalition people here today who know sex work and massage work are important care work. The bare minimum is full decrim. The bare minimum is fair labor conditions. The bare minimum is that workers should be able to self-organize and advocate for our own conditions without the fear of death or police or raids. There is still a long way to go until we dismantle and rebuild. But despite all odds, I am hopeful because I know that with enough collective force, something will have to give. And I look forward to continuing this fight with you all around dinner tables and on the streets. Thank you.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right. Hi, y'all. My name is Jared Trujillo. I'm an attorney at the New York Civil Liberties Union, and I'm a former sex worker. And I just want to say one of my favorite parts of my job is getting to work with so many folks at Red Canary, like Esther, like Elena, like so many other folks that I just really look up to so much for doing this work and for putting on this vigil today in collaboration with so many other people. Now, I think it's so important that we're here today to mourn the lives that were lost. And it's so important that we remember those lives and we care about those lives, those beautiful lives that were lost. But I want to talk to y'all about a different emotion right now than grief, and that's anger. Because the criminalization of massage work is a policy decision. When politicians say that they care about Asian lives, when we say that we care about massage workers, do we? Because it's still criminalized. That is a policy choice. The stigma that leads to events like the Atlanta shooting, like the shooting in Warren, Michigan that just happened, that you rarely see in the media, those are policy choices. That stigma stems from the criminalization of people that are just trying to work, of people that are just trying to put food on the table, of people that are just trying to have a roof over their heads, of workers, of human beings that are simply just trying to survive capitalism the best way that they know how to. In New York, recently there was a bill introduced that would decriminalize unlicensed massage.
Hi, everybody. Hi. It is really hard to find a tone when I am experiencing so much sadness and rage at the same time. So I'm gonna do my best. My name is Cecilia Gentili. I am an immigrant in this country. I am also a transgender woman. I am also a person who engaged in the sex trade and has been doing it since age 17 as a way to survive and provide what I need to have somehow a decent way of life. I am also a co-founder of Decriminalization New York, and I have a company called Transgender Equity Consulting. I am very, very grateful to be invited to share this space with all of you by Red Canary song and to participate in this vigil. I'm so appreciative of the work that they do. The work that they do by supporting Asian and migrant sex workers, especially those that work in sex parlors. I am grateful for this space to mourn the life of these 8 people that we lost, and to think about how we want to honor them. How are we going to do something in order to honor these 8 lives and not just mourn them? To me, honoring their lives means that we need to work to change conditions that contribute to their deaths. And to change these conditions, we need to understand that this was not an act of horrific violence that came out of a vacuum, that came out of nowhere. This is a part of a long and ongoing history of white supremacist violence in the United States. that has made it their business to target immigrants, people of color, and specifically Asian people. It is also part of a history of sexualized violence against sex workers or people perceived as working in the sex trade. This violence often is targeted to Asian massage parlors in particular. We need to name this violence against as what it is. It's white supremacy, and understand that it does not only come from angry white men acting alone. It also comes from cops who use and abuse their power to harass us, exploit us, and assault us. It comes from immigration officials who cage and deport our siblings and community members. It comes from correctional officers who leave our sister Leilin Polanco to die alone in solitary confinement. This is the ever-present violence that make the life of a sex worker so incredibly precarious and dangerous. So, with all of this in mind, to me, it comes across as deeply insulting to the memory of these 8 massage workers to suggest that increasing policing is going to make other massage workers or anyone safer. As we sex workers have always known, cops do not keep us safe. Cops are the ones that harass us, who arrest us, who assault us. Cops are not the solution. Cops are part of the problem. And for that, increasing policing budget in the name of protecting sex workers or protecting massage workers or protecting any vulnerable group is counterproductive. Not only you will not make us safer, but in fact, you're making our lives more precarious. But I have an option. What about if instead we listen to sex workers? What about if instead we listen to massage workers? What about if instead we listen to organizations like Red Canary Song? Their demands are very clear. We have to decriminalize sex work now, immediately, yesterday. This is what will allow sex workers to have the agency and the autonomy to control their own lives, right? It enables sex workers to no longer be isolated and having to do their work in conditions that are not the best for them. It also will empower sex workers to work in ways that feel safe and pursue recourse against their clients without fear. It will also allow sex workers to access services, all the services that we need, right? Healthcare, mental health, housing. The demands of New York-based massage parlor workers like Red Canary Song uplifted the last year included that legal work rights of Asian massage workers must be protected. A very direct and immediate way to do this is, again, decriminalizing unlicensed massage workers' work in the state of New York. Red Canary Zone and the New York CLU are currently fighting for the passage of the Massage License Decriminalization Act, like Jared just mentioned. So, something that you can do, call your representatives and tell them how important this is, how much this would change the lives of your communities or yourself or those who you love. Take a minute and call your representatives and let them know that this is what you as a constituency, as their constituency, want. It's a step in the right direction, but as we mentioned, the best thing to do is to fully decriminalize sex work. Something that is also very important, because decriminalization will do a lot, but it won't mean much if we don't get investment. We need investment. We need to fund peer outreach programs. We need to fund programs that provide free supportive housing for sex workers. We need to fund programs that are providing actually free healthcare services to sex workers. We need to put our minds to work with sex workers at the center to find what are the innovative programs that they want for themselves, to allow themselves to expand their lives and to do what they want with it. I am very hopeful that everyone gathered here today will not leave their support for Asian massage workers and sex workers behind when we leave this space. I am hopeful that you will stay connected to the work of Red Canary Song and everything that they're doing that is incredibly vital and necessary for all of us. Because we are going to keep showing up. We are going to keep fighting for full decriminalization. We are going to keep fighting for sex workers to live full lives without stigma or shame. We are going to keep fighting to honor the lives of the victims of white supremacist violence. And we are going to ensure that those lives were not lost in vain. I am hopeful that you will continue to show up and fight with us. And I thank you for being here.
Hello. Hello. Hi, I'm TD, and I'm a co-founder of the Asian American Feminist Collective. I'm grateful to be here today, and I'm especially grateful to be in community with the organizers of Red Canary Song and this powerful coalition of activists, workers, and organizations who are calling for rights and resources, not raids or rescue, and who understand the implicit connection these attacks on our communities have with the criminalization of survival. And that includes every one of you attending here today in person and online, wherever you are. I wanted to share a few thoughts that I've been having lately surrounding the anniversary of the horrific violence in Atlanta, as well as the ongoing violence against Asians in New York City, in the US, and across the globe. I want to live a long life. I want to live a long and healthy and joyful life surrounded by all of my Asian sisters and loved ones. In the future where we all live to become elders. I want to live long enough to become an auntie to my community, to be able to walk slowly through the park, crochet hats and read on public benches, and drop off tea eggs for my neighbors. I want my life to revolve around caring for my people and feeling cared for in return. I want to feel safe. But when I wake up from this dream, I'm faced with a crushing reality, a cold, hard reality. I'm faced with a racist, sexist, classist, ableist system that churns people up and spits them out. A society that criminalizes houselessness and survival. A society that favors a privileged few and forces the rest of us to fight for scraps. A society that views human beings as disposable, especially if they are black, brown, yellow, poor, migrant, unhoused, sick, disabled, incarcerated. This is the harsh reality we're faced with today. It's a difficult starting place. I often ask myself, how do we even begin to fix a system like this? How can we undo the centuries of violence, colonialism, and dehumanization that have led us to this present reality? Violence creates ripple effects through families, communities, and generations to come. We are generations of children born out of violence. And America's response to violence is always with more violence. Let me repeat that. They're trying to fix violence with more violence. They're trying to fix white supremacy through white supremacist strategies. We cannot heal our communities with more violence, more harm, more policing, and mass incarceration. We know the real antidote to violence is not more aggression and harm, but radical love and care. This is why it hurts that the victims of these attacks are usually caregivers, aunts, mothers, big sisters, grandmothers, body workers, healers. It's important that we continue carrying the torches of those that we have lost. We must continue their work and carry on their legacies. We've lost so many, but we're still here. There's still so many of us who continue to pour love into each other, into the world. Our survival hinges on one another. We must protect each other, love each other, and plant our seeds so that our roots continue to grow and break apart the foundations of patriarchal violence that have paved the way before us. We must care for the survivors among us who, in healing themselves, are helping to heal the world. And as Asian American feminists, we must care about victims and survivors of racialized, gendered violence who don't share our identities, whether they are from a different race, class, gender or sexual identity, immigration status, or beyond our borders. Our survival hinges on one another, which means we must build solidarity across differences. Among us, we are hundreds, thousands, millions, even billions of caregivers, people who want to see radical shifts in this world, rising up out of the ruins of war, capitalism, and domination, ready to nurture the world back to life. When I look at our movements, our feminist, immigrant, working class, and sex worker movements, I see our power to take all the shit that gets thrown at us, all the violence and discrimination, and turn that struggle into the birth of a beautiful, liberated tomorrow. Thanks. Even if tomorrow doesn't come in my lifetime, I believe that everything we do today matters for those who will carry the torch after us. I'll end my speech with one of my favorite quotes. "From my rotting body, flowers shall grow, and I am in them, and that is eternity." Thank you.
Hi, my name is Love Queen Layla. I'm originally from Beijing, China, and I am a 20-year educator of ESL in Mandarin, turned sex educator, professional dominatrix, performer, and speaker. I'm personally ending shame and stigma surrounding STIs, sexuality, BDSM, kink, second language learning, and communication. I'm a core outreach member and bilingual ESL organizer with Red Canary Song. Today, I'll be reading 2 speeches from our friends who wish to remain anonymous from Massage Parlor Outreach Project, or MPOP, a grassroots formation of Asian American community members organizing to provide support for migrant Asian massage workers, sex workers, and care workers in Seattle. Yes. A year ago, in Atlanta, several of our fellow citizens were murdered, and they lost their lives because they worked hard and were diligent. However, will the killers get the punishment they deserve? No one knows. They know our demands, they know our hopes, and they turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to our cries. They advocate for democracy while colonizing others. They want freedom while taking away the lives of others. They uphold the laws, yet the crimes are selectively unpunished, and the equality and justice we want are selectively ignored. They preach human rights, justice, equality, but blatantly condone racial discrimination, and they are hypocritical and unscrupulous. We breathe the air of fear and anger, and they are indifferent. What they give us is always a blank check that cannot be cashed. Almost 60 years later, Martin Luther King's sorrow continues, and the seeds of racial discrimination are still growing. It all stems from their ignorance and irresponsibility. We wish they could truly fulfill their promise that all men are created equal, without discrimination and without killing. However, in the face of reality, our thoughts are just wishful thinking. Friends and compatriots, we should give up the illusion of those promises and put our anger and efforts in fighting. Kindness should be first and foremost the ability to protect oneself rather than be seen as a weakness. Oh. Time flies by so fast. It's now approaching the first anniversary of the Atlanta spa shooting. The hearts of Chinese in the United States are bleeding. We are all in deep empathy. Whose daughter, whose lover, and whose mother was she? How her loved ones have been grieving for a year, how they have been spending their days, how they have been suffering every day, and their hearts must have been broken. What is wrong with this world? Why is it so cruel to a person who works hard to make a living? Women working in massage parlors are great and worthy of admiration for their hard work and their willingness to provide for their families. No matter what industry they are in, no one has the right to deprive others of their lives, and those who do so must be severely punished. There are also 2 recent cases in New Mexico. Why do vicious criminals kill the unarmed and those who are vulnerable? As I'm writing now, snow falls from Seattle's clear sky. The sky is crying. May there be no pain, no fear, no tears in heaven. May the living be well. Let's cherish the moment.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is T.S. Candy. That's T.S. Candy with 2 I's because I never question myself with a Y. I'm a former sex worker. I'm the executive director of Black Trans Nation. We are a 501c3, and Black Trans Nation New York, where we are 501c4. Thank you, Red Canary song, for inviting me to be a part of this remembrance of the 8 dead, including the 6 Asian lives who worked at a massage parlor who was shot dead in Atlanta, Georgia last year. Thank you all for showing up and standing up with massage parlors, sex workers, or those who practice the sex trade as a trade. Last year was the most deadliest year for the Black transgender community from gun violence. I understand the fear and the pain the Asian community faces in the USA, as we Black trans women face it at every turn. Dear politicians, you do not speak for me and you do not represent me. Laylene Polanco, Lorena Borez, forgive me if I say her name, her last name, Marsha P. Johnson, Silva Rivera, get those names out of your mouth. Building new jails and advocating for the criminalization of our source of survival, what you stand for is killing us. Jails are not safe for trans women. Jails are not safe for the Asian community. Jails are not safe for the Black community. Walking as an active target for simply trying to survive in this cold, cool world. It was our duty to get the Walking While Trans ban repealed and sealed. When this law got repealed on February 2nd of 2021, automatically 903 unlicensed massage parlors cases was dismissed due to this bill passage. As Ether, Jared, and Cecilia mentioned, full decriminalization of sex work is the bare minimum. The great Assata Shakur, and I'm be ending in this, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We're going to say it one more time, and I need everybody to say this, okay? It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Thank you again. My name is T.S. Candy.
Hello? Okay. Hi. Hi. My name is Ray Xu. I'm a sex worker, he, him, his pronouns. When my friend asked me if I could speak here, I immediately said yes, and that was the most decisive I've been about anything in a very long time, and I found it difficult to verbalize why I felt called to speak beyond being a fellow AAPI sex worker. I want to honor the 8 who tragically lost their lives, and I felt connected to them because they were just trying to live, and that could have been me. I don't want them. Xiao Jietian, Dao Yufeng, Delana Ashley Yan, Paul Andre Mitchell's Yong A Yu, Soon Chun Park, Sun Cha Kim, Hyun Jung Grant to be forgotten. The feeling of this could have been me speaks to the diversity of our communities and the universal experience of vulnerability. Not all sex workers have the same experience, but at the same time, I felt a deep fear because that really could have been me, and that makes it feel even more personal. I have some family, and I have friends who would look for me, but not every slain sex worker does. I have the privilege of citizenship and legibility in this country in a different way, but sex workers are killed all the time. We are mocked, viewed as disposable and subhuman, and considered even worse if we are immigrants or trans. Many have demanded heavier policing during this ongoing wave of anti-Asian violence in the United States. What does more cops mean for sex workers? Manhattan and Brooklyn have allegedly mostly stopped prosecuting us for in-person sex work, but that's only in New York City. Will police around the country change their behavior and demeanor towards Asians, or towards massage workers, or towards Asian sex workers, or towards trans sex workers? When have the police protected our communities? Why is decriminalization so hard to grasp? Most of all, I am angry that 8 whole human beings had to die because of one man. It's disgusting that the news trains people to only care about their own demographic. The media has the most powerful role in silencing us, in erasing us, and encouraging negligence. I am furious at the world of adults. I am frustrated that I can't identify my emotions. I am scrambled at how my body shuts down as I try to figure out how to feel. They deserve more than silence. They deserve to be known, to be respected, and to be remembered. Thank you.
Can you all hear me? My name is Wu. I'm an Asian American sex worker, and I'm a core organizer with Red Canary Song, and I have been since 2019. I will be reading these words from Elaine Lamb and our comrades from Butterfly Toronto. Butterfly is an Asian and migrant sex worker support network in Canada. And today, we are coming together not only to remember the 8 lives that were lost in Atlanta shooting last year, but we'd also like to take this opportunity to honor and remember all the Asian and migrant massage workers and Asian sex workers. Raise it? Can somebody please? Oh, volume. Got it. We would also like to take this opportunity to honor and remember all the Asian and migrant massage workers and sex workers who have lost their lives and are being harmed because of discrimination and criminalization. There has been a dramatic increase in the concern of anti-Asian racism after the Atlanta shooting. However, it is very important to not forget the 6 Asian women were killed, not only because of anti-Asian racism, but also because of whorephobia and a deep hatred of sex work. No matter what kinds of services the massage workers are providing, all of them are harmed. Asian workers, both in massage parlors and the sex industry as a whole, are targeted and murdered in Canada every single year, but with little to no attention. They face anti-Asian hate and whorephobia every day, thus making their work environments incredibly unsafe. We thought that Asian massage workers and sex workers would be treated differently after the shooting. However, they continue to be targeted by the hate, violence, laws, and law enforcement, particularly the racist and anti-sex work organizations. They are silencing the Asian workers by calling them ignorant, trafficked victims. Anti-trafficking investigations to continue to be used to impose racist policy, to punish, to arrest, to detain, and deport Asian massage parlor and sex workers, as well as shut down their business and take away their living. They are calling for criminalization and the elimination of sex work in Asian massage parlors, which is not different from the murders. They promote the idea that massage parlors are both illegal and fronts for organized crime, and that all Asian women engaging in this work are passive and ignorant, that they are victims of human trafficking that need to be saved. This contributes to racial profiling by law enforcement. It contributes to detainment and deportation. For example, the town of Newmarket in Ontario has bypassed the law to require all workers to have an accredited college qualification, meaning that non-English, poor Asian workers are banned from work. The anti-trafficking movement has received enormous support because it fosters the illusion that these policies can stop exploitation, thus making people safer. This is far from true. These anti-trafficking policies cover up the real agenda of racism, anti-sex work, anti-migrant discrimination, and promote both colonialism and imperialism. Their goal is not to end exploitation. Their goal is to end sex work and to shut down Asian massage parlors. It is not uncommon for Asian migrant sex workers to be excluded by some of the Asian groups who are deeply influenced by colonialism. They are using the sexualization of Asian women to call for the criminalization and elimination of sex work. Christian leaders within the Asian community are the greatest perpetrators of anti-sex worker discrimination. It is essential that we break down the wall that excludes Asian and migrant sex workers from the Asian community. If you are fighting against anti-Asian racism, you should take action to stop the hate and the violence against the Asian and migrant sex workers as well. They should not be left behind. It is time to stop the danger of anti-trafficking movement and the anti-sex work policies which perpetrate the systematic violence. We are calling for your support to stop anti-Asian hate and to promote a safe work environment for all workers in the sex industry. We cannot stress enough the importance of building solidarity across the movement against sex worker violence, and we stand with our allies in the Indigenous, Black, LGBT communities for anti-policing, pro-migrant rights, and pro-worker rights. Butterfly wants to use this opportunity to show our solidarity with Red Canary Song, other Asian sex workers, and massage parlor organizations, allies, and supporters to fight for the rights and justice of Asian workers in massage parlors and the sex industry. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Elena Shi. I'm a core organizer of Red Canary Song. I'm also an assistant professor of American Studies and Ethnic Studies at Brown University. After the shootings last year, I set a Google News alert for the phrase Asian massage parlor. Primarily, I did this because I wanted to learn about pending threats of new raids that might be targeting massage workers that Red Canary Song has been doing outreach to in the past 4 years in Flushing, New York, throughout Manhattan, in Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. What has amassed has been a devastating archive. The news reports fall into 2 stark categories. The first are arrests, raids, and the abundant surveillance and targeting of Asian massage work. And the second are shootings, including the recent death of 2 workers in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and just 2 weeks ago, the news that 40 bullets were fired into a Chinese-owned massage business just outside of Detroit, Michigan. This growing pattern of shootings targeting Asian massage businesses is terrifying. And as we continue to mourn the tragic murders of a year ago, we continually find that these two strains are brutally connected. The white supremacist violence directed at Asian women, like those that we saw in the Atlanta murders, must be discussed and mourned alongside the state violence of policing, borders, and deportation. Through our work organizing with workers the past 4 years, we learned that on a daily basis, workers are facing a new rash of laws that target Asian massage licenses, endorsing the escalation of policing and surveillance, often justified in the name of protecting victims of human trafficking. So while they amass millions of dollars for the anti-trafficking organizations that design and implement them, almost always in collaboration with law enforcement, they in reality make workplaces less safe. Workers are arrested en masse, and those who are undocumented are put into the deportation pipeline. And to combat this, RCS has worked the past year with the amazing author of this bill, Jared Trujillo, who spoke earlier of the New York Civil Liberties Union, and introduced by Assembly members Jessica Gonzalez Rojas and supported by Ron Kim, the Massage License Decriminalization Act. The raid and deport formula is a key threat facing Asian migrant communities living in the United States. And as we gather to mourn the loss of life a year ago, we also call attention to the ongoing daily loss of life and livelihood enacted by U.S. empire globally. In the past few weeks, the Biden administration has escalated the deportation of Southeast Asian refugee populations once again. And alongside our allies, we call attention that ICE stop these targeted raids. It is unfathomable that these continue to happen along the active making of Ukrainian refugees in the wake of Russian military aggression and the ongoing legacies of US imperialism. In the past year, as coronavirus restrictions have seemed to have lifted, policing has once again resurfaced. And workers find that the recent increase of policing is a sign that the pandemic is over for the police. But while policing and deportation are ramping up, it is not business as usual for workers. The economic situation for workers continues to be dire. Many still are living off of just 1 or 2 massages a day, trying to eke out a living off of $20 or $30 a day. And throughout the pandemic, many have turned to adjacent work in the care industry to supplement their livelihood in industries like nail salons, restaurant work, and as home care workers. Workers cannot understand why there hasn't been more attention paid and support given to campaigns like the Ain't I a Woman campaign, which has been working for over 2 years to demand an end to the 24-hour working day. Because workers move between all of these industries as care workers trying to eke out a living. The combined struggles of surviving the regimes of policing, white supremacy, labor, exploitation, and racial capitalism give us new things to mourn on a daily basis. They also offer us an opportunity to come together and to organize. It is in that spirit that we grieve. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Yeonhoo Cho and I am a core member and an outreach worker in Red Canary Song. Today I'm reading a statement on behalf of Scarlet Cha-Cha, our sister organization located in South Korea. 안녕하세요 여러분, 저는 레드 카나리 송 아웃리치 활동가 조연후라고 합니다. 오늘 저는 한국에 있는 저희의 자매단체 저희 주홍빛 연대 차차를 대신해서 연설문을 대독하려고 합니다. 다 읽지는 못하겠지만 일부분은 한국어로 읽도록 하겠습니다. Hi everyone, my name is Yeoreum Choi, and I am an organizer at Scarlet Cha-Cha. Scarlet Cha-Cha is a Korea-based sex worker organization founded in July 2019. I would like to express my gratitude to Red Canary Song, who made it possible for all of us to come together to commemorate the 8 lives lost in the Atlanta shooting. It's been a full circle of 1 year since the Atlanta shooting. 8 people have died and time has passed, but the world is still, as if their deaths were nothing. Some people say or act like these victims' lives don't matter, and I wonder if this is why the amount of tears that were shed for the victims were so small. Obviously, when a person dies, there's a rule in our society to grieve and shed tears, but I realize that there are some beings to whom this rule does not apply. There seems to be a death that could be mourned and a death that does not need to be mourned. These include the deaths of women, queer folks, migrants, refugees, sex workers, the disabled, and animals. For those beings, people try to look away from their deaths. People don't grieve. People pretend not to know about those deaths. They'd rather save their tears because to them this is not a sad death. Or perhaps they believe that these people's death is justified. Some beings' lives are valued differently, and there are deaths that cannot be mourned, whose lives and deaths are recognized as worthy of being mourned in this society. The vulnerable people's lives are excluded from this. With that being said, I would like to commemorate the vulnerable and the vulnerable bodies whose lives are believed to be irrelevant. I cry out to the world that did not shed tears or mourn before the deaths of the victims of the Atlanta shootings. Let us all weep before their death, as we should. Let us remember their lives with dignity when they could not die with dignity. Mourn for the body that could not be mourned. Mourn for the rest who have witnessed the death that cannot be mourned. Judith Butler once said, perhaps one mourns when one accepts that by the loss, perhaps one mourns when one accepts that by the loss one undergoes, one will be changed, possibly forever. To mourn is to hold oneself accountable for the consequences of the loss. We have lost so many precious people this year. In 2021, we've witnessed so many hate crimes against sex workers across the world. The Atlanta shooting in the United States, the murder of 2 sex workers by Kang Yun-sung in South Korea, the murder of a sex worker at a Love Hotel in Tokyo, Japan, murder of Stella Frew, a street-based sex worker in South London in UK, are just few incidents that we've identified as explicitly horror-phobic hate crimes. The world must change for us, and our condolences. We can't lose anyone anymore. We must not let anyone die like this anymore. We demand the society the right to live and die with dignity. For all those who identify as sex workers and those who do not but still are stigmatized as such. We demand society the right to mourn with dignity. Stop killing sex workers. Don't condone hate crimes against sex workers. Stop the violence and hatred towards sex workers right now. We demand for those who haven't died with dignity, the right to be remembered with dignity, the right to be mourned with dignity. Lastly, I will end by sharing the chants at the Sex Workers Memorial Action that we organized last year. And I would invite everyone here to repeat after me, chant with me. Criminalization cannot stop us. We We exist beyond criminalization. No one deserves to die, no matter what they do for a living. Burn incense for the lost lives. Respond to our collective grief. Thank you so much.
Hello, can everybody hear me? My name is Cinnamon Love. I have worked in the sex trade since I was 16 as an unhoused youth and have been a sex worker for the last 28 years. I am a parent, a grandparent, and the founder of the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Collective, providing care for workers in the criminalized and legal forms of the sex trade. After the Atlanta murders, we saw an increase of Asian American and AAPI sex workers seeking financial assistance due to fear of returning to work in person and needing time to mourn and grieve before returning to work online. I'm learning to live with an acquired brain injury, so I ask for your grace and your compassion as I speak today. Thank you so much to Yen Kwan and Red Canary Song for inviting me as we honor 8 lives murdered a year ago today. We honor and say their names. Before I proceed, I'd like to acknowledge that today may have been challenging for some. Some of the things that I will talk about may be triggering to hear, so with that in mind, I'd like to pause for a few moments and invite you to join me in a few deep cleansing breaths. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Lower your shoulders, unclench your jaw. Last one, let's breathe in through our nose and out through your mouth. As today's vigil nears a close, please take care of your body and your spirit for the rest of the day and return to your breath if things become challenging. Breathing is something we often take for granted until we witness modern-day lynchings on our screens, 8 lives cut short by ignorance, stigma, and entitlement. The words, "I can't breathe," etched in our brains over and over again. Or when a respiratory virus threatens the lives of our vulnerable loved ones. Oxygen is the vital life force that binds us. Without it, life ceases to exist. For those of us still amongst the living, I invite you to appreciate every breath that you take. For the last 2 years, the thread between Asian American, AAPI, and Black people in the United States has never been more clear. Acts of racial violence against our communities during an ongoing global health crisis are reminders that regardless of whether your ancestors were trafficked, like mine, or came to this country voluntarily, irrespective of your phenotypical proximity to whiteness, we have more in common than not. As people of the global majority, and let's be clear, collectively, we are the global majority. We often live in multi-generational households. We value knowledge, culture, and community. We are told to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps and are not given the boots or the straps in order to do so. Local, state, and federal governments fail to provide adequate housing, medical care, food, and education for migrant, queer, trans, disabled, poor, working class, Black, Asian, Latinx, Indigenous, and other communities of color, creating conditions that make the American dream of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness damn near impossible. We have more in common than not. Despite our diversity, many of us engage in informal economies because the dominant white supremacist culture continues to push us out of traditional employment, then criminalizes us for daring to find a way to feed, house, and care for ourselves and our families. Too often, the best way out is to use the one natural resource that we all have, our bodies. Whether we use our bodies on construction sites, harvesting crops, expertly crafting clothing, on football fields, basketball courts, taking care of someone else's children, or on street corners, in hotel rooms, or in massage parlors, we make decisions to survive every day by any means necessary. We have more in common than not. The criminalization of sexual labor and unlicensed massage continues to harm and incarcerate people of the global majority at alarming rates. The conflation of this work with trafficking erases the horrific realities of genocide, chattel slavery, forced breeding, and false imprisonment of people endured by people of the global majority who built this country. This criminalization takes away resources that helps keep us safe and forces us to operate in the shadows. We have more in common than not. There are too many states where law enforcement are still legally allowed to sexually assault massage and sex workers to entrap them. And too many times, good, hardworking people are subject to arrest and the threat of deportation, losing their children, their jobs, and their housing, all under the guise of saving them from being trafficked. We have more in common than not. The dominant culture wants you to believe that one group of oppressed people has it better than another, or that one group of oppressed people are more morally bankrupt or more violent than another. This tactic of divide and conquer ensures that we cannot stand in solidarity with one another in times of grief, crisis, and pain. This tactic ensures that people of the global majority cannot rise up against tyranny, hatred, and the daily violent attacks on our civil liberties. We have more in common than not. When we begin to look at the common threads between us, we are able to strengthen our communities, fight injustice, overturn destructive legislation, and most importantly, keep one another safe from harm. We are stronger together. It is time to move past solidarity only in moments of crisis by checking implicit bias and fear-based stereotypes that only prevent us from fighting the real enemy, white supremacy. We have more in common than not. I invite you to repeat after me. We are people of the global majority. Stop Asian hate. We are people of the global majority. Black Lives Matter. We are people of the global majority. Stop Asian hate. We are people of the global majority. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Hi everyone, can you all hear me? My name is Vicky. I'm really honored to be here today on behalf of the Flushing Workers Center. I want to thank Red Canary Song and the Asian American Feminist Collective for creating this space for us. 1 year ago, 8 people were murdered, 6 Asian women, massage workers, sex workers. The spa shootings in Atlanta were a deliberate act of violence against Asian women sex workers who the murderer blamed and saw as less than human. He was sick. But his sickness wasn't unique or individual. It's a symptom of an illness that we all live in as a society. We are bombarded every day with the same narrative. Asian women are submissive. Asian women are hardworking. We exist for other people's exploitation and consumption. Asian immigrant women doubly so. Asian immigrant women who provide care work, sex work, are the lowest of the low. This narrative and this world that we live in is ugly. It's painful and ugly to suddenly see yourself as the system treats you, to suddenly see yourself the way that we all did 1 year ago. But these incidents of violence shouldn't shock us. A Chinese home attendant, Lai Chan, who we organized with, puts it clearly. When even our bosses can exploit and abuse us in the workplace, how can we expect to be treated with respect by the rest of society? The system has learned that it needs our own people, other women, other Asians, to exploit us and treat our time and bodies as worthless. Asian immigrant women suffer violence every single day, and it's perpetrated by Asian bosses and enabled by Asian politicians. Lai Chan, along with so many other Chinese home attendants in New York City, was forced to work 24-hour workdays. She worked 24-hour shifts, multiple days a week, for 8 years. During those 24-hour shifts, her employer, the Chinese American Planning Council, stole 11 hours of 8 wages for each shift. For years, they committed blatant violations of labor laws and basic decency, all the while pretending to represent the community. So we say it loud and clear, the 24-hour workday is racist, sexist violence. Only immigrant women of color could be forced to work 24-hour workdays, doing work that breaks their bodies as it destroys their lives. Home attendants are robbed of wages, robbed of sleep, robbed of time with their families, robbed of basic labor protections, robbed of decency. The conditions of the 24-hour workday are unthinkable to most of us, and they exist only because of this racist and sexist idea that Asian immigrant women are cheap. And it's not just that the bosses get away with exploitation because of the racist ideas. Our dehumanization exists because of the exploitation. The entire home care industry rests on the abuse of immigrant women. And that is what feeds the racist rhetoric and creates the conditions of violence that we suffer from in our homes, in our workplaces, and on the street. So today I speak about the violence and the racism of the 24-hour workday, not just because it's yet another form of violence that Asian immigrant women suffer from. When white men on tirades commit senseless murders like the one in Atlanta, we need to ask ourselves, where do they learn that Asian women are objects, that we are disposable? They learn it from sweatshop bosses like CPC, who commit violence against Chinese immigrant women, killing them slowly over years of 24-hour workdays in broad daylight. They learn it from a racist state that colludes with racist sweatshop bosses to enable their exploitation. On the one hand, criminalizing sex workers and leaving them vulnerable to constant harassment and raids, while on the other, subjecting home attendants to state-sanctioned wage theft and abuse of 24-hour workdays by refusing to enforce existing labor laws. They learn it from politicians, even Asian women representatives like Assemblymember Yulin Liu, who claims to care about the Asian community, yet supports CPC in continuing to abuse Asian women, reinforcing the same idea of worthlessness that leaves us vulnerable to these attacks. Sex workers, home attendants are killed slowly by daily violence and exploitation at the hands of bosses and the state as we struggle to survive. So to end violence against Asian women in our workplaces, in our homes, on the street, we have to attack it at the root and end exploitation. So long as bosses from our own community can abuse us, rob and exploit us, and treat us as subhuman, we will never be seen as human by the rest of society. So in this moment, I ask us to convert our grief into action by standing with home attendants to end the 24-hour workday. We are not weak and submissive. We are strong. Our labor, our time, and our lives are not cheap. They are worth fighting for, and it's only by uniting across race, gender, and industry to fight against exploitation and racist violence, that we can transform ourselves and our conditions. So as we grieve the loss of our sisters in Atlanta, we must resolve to honor their memories by creating a world that they never got to inhabit, in which they are seen as human. Thank you.
Yes. Can everybody hear me? I am Yves Tam Nguyen. I'm a Vietnamese queer and disabled sex worker, and I have been since I was 17. And I am an organizer with Red Canary Song and Survived and Punished New York. Firstly, I would like to thank the interpreters here with us and the ones working from home who are helping us provide language justice. Thank you. And as a note, for anybody here, as we're coming to a close, if you would like someone to accompany you to make sure that you get to your trains or your cars safely, our safety team is wearing white vests and they're in the back and around the crowd. Please come look for them if you would like someone to accompany you to get home safely. Thank you for being here and holding this space and grief with us today. We are deeply grateful for the support you've shown us in the last year. To begin, we want to name the lives of who we have lost and that we honor today. Zhao Jitan, Delana Ashley Yun Gonzalez, Dao Yu Feng, Paul Andre Mitchells, Soon Chung Park, Hyun Chung Grant, Young Ai Wei, Sun Cha Kim. We honor your lives. We mourn you in death. We grieve for the families and friends who have lost you to white supremacist violence. As we pay honor to the individual victims and send support to the survivors, it is undeniable that this was an act of targeted violence against Asian women massage workers. A year later, we still hold this truth. And last year, I told everyone, but especially my community of Asian massage and sex workers, to remember to let grief be part of our movement building process. It is very easy. We'll continue to mourn the lives of all of our sisters who have been killed by violence, even if people have not heard of them. We will carry this grief for the rest of our lives, and it will propel us. They have already inspired so many people since their deaths. But I want to remind us all that the 6 Asian massage workers who were murdered that day are not martyrs for our movements. We hope to honor the complexity of their lives and the complexity of their deaths as we continue to try and fight for women just like them. We know and love women just like them who live at different intersections and at the margins, and we fight for ours and their survival every day. We hold all of them and their names close to us, and in honor of them all, we push on for a more just world. I know that this grief is heavy, and I want to invite everyone here to take a moment of silence and breathe with me. Are you in a position to allow yourself to breathe deeply? Are your ribs in a position to allow yourself to breathe deeply? Are your shoulders? Relax your belly, relax your body. Take a deep breath in through your nose and let a deep breath out. Thank you. I would now like to bring your attention to and follow the KQT Pungmo drummers as they lead you to our funerary ritual over at the Art Memorial.
바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나. 허무하게 지는 꽃은 보기에도 아프다네. 이제 가는 뒷모습에 꽃이라도 뿌려보네. 서리 맺힌 그 마음을 우리 만져드리리다. 어찌할꼬 어찌할꼬.
바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나. 허무하게 지는 꽃은 보기에도 아프다네. 이제 가는 뒷모습에 꽃이라도 뿌려보네. 서리 맺힌 그 마음을 우리 만져
바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나. 허무하게 지는 꽃은 보기에도 아프다네. 이제 가는 뒷모습에 꽃이라도 뿌려보네. 서리 맺힌 그 마음을 우리 만져 드리리다. 어찌할까 어찌할까. 바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나. 허무하게 지는 꽃은 보기에도 아프다네. 이제 가는 뒷모습에 꽃이라도 뿌려보네. 서리 맺힌 그 마음을 우리 만져 드리리다.
바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나. 허무하게 지는 꽃은 보기에도 아프다네. 이제 가는 뒷모습에 꽃이라도 뿌려보네. 서리 맺힌 그 마음을 우리 만져 드리리다. 어찌할꼬 어찌할꼬.
바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나. 허무하게 지는 꽃은 보기에도 아프다네. 이제 가는 뒷모습에 꽃이라도 뿌려보네. 서리 맺힌 그 마음을 우리 만져 드리리다. 어찌할까.
바람결에 날리려고 이렇게도 돌아왔나.